Now, I am very, very excited to have my next guest on the show. It's such a pleasure to be interviewing such a legend. Let's say hello to Norman Cook. Hello.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Now, it's great to speak to a true music icon, as you have worked in the industry for many years. But you started your career in the Housemartins, who had a UK #1 hit with Caravan of Love. But how did you get the part in that band?
I actually sort of started my career as a DJ before that. I was mates with Paul Heaton when I was at sixth form college, and we were in a band called the Stomping Pond Frogs, which is kind of a prototype of the Housemartins. So I was filling in on bass for Paul's band, which sort of accidentally became a career.
And how did you find? Was it such a great fun? Because I mean, being UK #1, that must have been a great achievement for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, what I always say about the Housemartins is it's like your first time having sex. It's not necessarily the best sex you ever had, but it's always the most memorable because it was your first time. And yeah, having grown up with Paul and we it's always your dream to be on top of the pops and things like that. And so yeah, to realise that dream with Paul and Stan and Hugh was a tremendous thrill. Even though I think kind of musically I'm happier with what I do now. And I think I'm happier not being in a band with Paul and Stan with them. But no, it was a great time. And yeah, like you said, the thrill of all those things that you dreamt of doing when you were a kid, which was being on top of the pops, having a #1, being on the Wogan show in those days. They're all kind of milestones in my career.
And what I'd love to know is what kind of made you want to leave the Housemartins and create Beats International, which was another huge success for you.
Well, but basically, I'd always been into dance music, but in those days it was called black music. It wasn't, the white people didn't make it, and so I kind of felt that my heritage, growing up as a suburban white kid, would be to play the kind of pop music that the Housemartins did, and as a DJ, I played kind of black music. But then, whilst I was in the Housemartins, they kind of invented the sampler and the drum machine, which meant that white people could make that kind of music without pretending to be black. And all my mates like Tim Simonham with Bomb the Bass and Cold Cut, and they were all having, hits doing the kind of music that I really wanted to do. So for me, and now I tried to sort of steer Housemartins towards more kind of contemporary sort of dance-based music, and they weren't having it, so we split up.
And I mean, you went on to huge success, and in the 90s, you became the iconic and the legendary Fatboy Slim.
Yeah.
But how did that name come about? Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
No, that's the question that I've answered it so many times, but no one believes the answer. No, it was just out of thin air. I had, at that point, I was in Freak Power. I was Pizza Man. I was also the Mighty Dubcats, and I just needed another name to put out a different style of music on a different label. And I just needed another name. It doesn't mean anything. It's just an oxymoron. It's the blues singer who can never exist.
And I mean, you've done incredible stuff under that name. And another question I wanted to know: how would you say your music is completely different to other artists out there? Because all of your hits have become so iconic and so legendary. Everybody knows them. So how are you different to other artists out there who do similar stuff?
I don't know. I think it's kind of one part having a pop ear. I think I've got a kind of good ear for something that's catchy. And having been a DJ and worked in a record shop, you learn that. I think that and a kind of refusal to play by the rules. I think there's a kind of sort of cheeky sort of messing around with the formula of how you make pop music, but with something catchy. And I don't know. If I knew, I'd do it every week. If I knew how to do it.
And you've also done producing work for people like Blur and Rizzle Kicks. Is that true?
Yeah.
So do you think when you have a big hit on your hands? When you hear something, do you think instantly, right? That's going to be big.
Not instantly, but there's normally a point halfway through. I think it's when you're halfway through doing a track and you realise that you're not only are you not bored of it, but actually you enjoy it every time you listen to it again. Because you have to listen to it hundreds of times. And most tunes, about halfway through making them, you're like, oh my God, this is rubbish. I don't never hear this again in my life. But yes, I mean, like with the Rizzle Kicks tune, I was just sitting there quietly smiling to myself going, this smells of hit. But I mean, again, it's not an exact science being able to pick them. There's some tunes that I had that feeling about that have been complete flops, and some tunes that I didn't really think were that good that went on to be number one.
You can't really predict it. It's just you listen to something, you think, hang on, I'm enjoying this, and you don't know whether it's going to be big or it could flop.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, some of them you think. I mean, with Rockefeller Skate, I got this sort of tingly feeling, and I think Praise You as well. This sounds like it could, like I said, if you can listen to it hundreds of times and you're bored of it, then that probably means you're onto something good. And if you find yourself whistling it in your sleep, that's always a good sign. But one of the great things about pop music is it kind of throws so many curveballs that there's no such thing as a guaranteed hit, especially in this day and age with the internet.
Yeah.
Things can sort of break out of nowhere, like Gangnam Style. Where did that come from?
That's a huge sensation as well at the minute.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I love about pop music. It's just it totally reinvents the rules, not just in terms of, formats and downloads and everything, but just something that, you look at what was cool 5 years ago and think, why did we like that? We don't want that, we want this. And then 5 years later, you're like, why did we want that?
What I'd love to ask you, because you've got to where you are through hard work and working so hard, but what do you think of shows like The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent? Do you think it's a good platform to start on?
Not really. Not if you want to be taken seriously. I think there's a certain breed of people who kind of, sort of pub singers who could elevate themselves by being on the X Factor. But I think anyone with any sort of cool or original ideas would kind of have the nonce to kind of steer clear of talent shows and that audience.
Yeah. I mean, people like you said about being taken seriously, there's artists such as Rylan on there at the minute he gets booed just for getting through to the next round, so it's not always a good platform, like you said, to be taken seriously.
Well, I mean, it's the same as any reality TV. I mean, it's better because these people some of them are good singers, but they haven't really got much personality. It's better than the kind of, Big Brother thing where people just want to be famous for being idiots.
Yeah.
At least they're making some semblance of entertaining us.
And, I mean, you've gone on from there's so many achievements you have, and recently you performed at the Olympic closing ceremony. Now, that must have been such an honour to have a big set with people like Jessie J in front of your nation. Yeah,
it was a tremendous honour. It really was. And because I was the only DJ in it, I kind of felt I was representing Team GB in the DJing Olympics. It was a real honour to be asked to do that, and one of those, the whole experience of the rehearsals, and because we were doing the dress rehearsals just when everyone was going, my God, we've pulled this off, we're putting on a great Olympics and we're winning medals, and there was such a sort of feel-good factor, and to be part of that felt, even though I'm not an athlete, I kind of felt like an Olympian, and I was invited to the party. But I don't know if you've ever performed on the top of a bus inside a 40-foot luminescent inflatable octopus, but it's quite a surreal feeling.
When
I look back, when my life flashes before me as the bus comes towards me at great speed, I think that'll be definitely one of as I relive my life, that will be one of the highlights.
Now, it's obvious that DJing is something you're very fond of and you absolutely love it, but can you remember your first ever DJ gig?
I do, yes, distinctly. It was a party. I can't remember the girl's name. I wish I remembered her name, but I used to get invited to parties because I had all the records. Right. Because in those days you didn't have Last FM or anything, and so you actually physically needed somebody who had the records to play at the party. But the nature of teenage parties was they were always ended up covered in vomit and fag ends. So I kind of said, someone invited me to a party, and I said, "Oh, I'm coming, but I'm not bringing my records because they always get ruined." And they went, "Oh, we were only inviting you for the records." And then, well, how about if my dad hires these double decks and you kind of act like the DJ? And so I thought, yeah, that sounds fun. And yeah, I mean, I remember the feeling. I was like, oh, I really like this, and they seem to really like this. And yeah, I never looked back.
And the rest is history, like they say.
Well, it took a while for me to realise. It took me being in the Housemartins and Beats International and Free Power and things like that to realise that my strength actually is just to be a DJ and not to try and be in a band and write songs, but just to mash up records, which was always my sort of first love. It took me about 15 years of my career to work at that, but that's what I should do. And also in those days, being a DJ wasn't a career; it was a hobby. And you got paid slightly more than the glass collector at the end of the evening, or you only played your local kind of disco or soccer club or whatever.
But obviously you enjoy it as well. And do you remember your first ever DJ deck? Something that you got and you were just on it all the time and you loved it and it was kind of part of you.
Yeah, the first decks I had were old Garrard belt-driven ones. But then, when people realised that these Technics decks had vari-speed on and made mixing a lot easier, I remember for about a year, I had one belt-driven deck and one Technics deck because I couldn't afford two Technics. So for about a year, I DJed on two different turntables, and one of them had vari-speed and the other didn't. So you had to plan your mixes around that.
That sounds... Have you still got that?
I think I've still got the same Techniques that I've always had. They last a lifetime. Yeah, I can't remember. They all look exactly the same, but I've never sold it, so I suppose I must still have the same one.
Now, luckily for us here in Cornwall, you're actually going to be in Bristol on the 8th of December.
Yes.
We'll be performing. Now, is that something you're excited about? Are you fond of the South West?
Yeah, I've always had. I've always been very fond of Bristol, but never seemed to get there enough. I used to have friends there and spend a long time years back. No, it's basically, this is my, in the autumn, I kind of had a really busy summer of travelling and all the festivals and Ibiza and everything. But because my wife is on the TV in the autumn doing Strictly It Takes Two, I have to stay at home with the kids, so I'm not allowed to travel. But I have to get away and kind of flex my DJing muscles. So we always do a 5-night stand where we just go around Britain, and it's kind of sort of back to basics. Last year we did all seaside venues. We did Southend and Bridlington and Brighton and Blackpool. And this year it's kind of getting back to basics after fanning around all summer, playing festivals in Ibiza and the Olympics. It's time to get back to basics and get back to good, honest-to-goodness nightclubs. And so I picked the 5 best nightclubs in England, and Motion was in that top 5.
Wow, that's going to be exciting. And you've also got a DVD's going to... is it Big Beach Boutique as well?
Yeah, we've done these 5 beach parties now on Brighton Beach, but this year we moved it indoor, sort of semi-indoors to the football stadium. And I put on the biggest show technically of my life, and not the biggest in audience, but the biggest in show. And we filmed it and released a DVD,
which is available on your website, which is fatboyslim.net, and they can get a DVD and a CD which features interviews from you, a download as well.
Yeah, I think there's sort of 2 different versions. There's one which is there's one kind of collector's pack, and there's one which is just a sort of DVD and then an audio CD and downloads, and yeah, the usual works. I mean, basically, it's the film, the gig, and all the frills.
Well, I'm going to make sure I get a copy of that, because there is, like you said, a special edition box set which people can get, which has the DVD. It has some collector's edition discs. It has Fatboy graphic prints as well, and that's all available on fatboyslim.net.
Yes.
Perfect. And we look forward to seeing you.
You've sold it for me. I don't have to do this deal.
It's like Bid Up TV here. Now we're looking for, because I'm going to make sure I'm there as well to see you at Bristol. It's going to be absolutely fantastic seeing you what you do best as well, which is get everyone up and dancing and sell out tours.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And thanks for having us. I'll see you next month.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.